Let's start our story not in some stuffy lecture hall, but in a quiet mountain village, right at the heart of a blacksmith's forge. So picture this. While all the other smiths are painstakingly following these ancient dusty scrolls, one master, well, he works differently. He doesn't just read about the fire, he actually listens to it. He follows the rhythm of the flame, the hiss of the steam. He just gets the raw, unrefined earth in a way nobody else does.
And that right there, that was his whole philosophy. When people would ask him, hey, why do you ignore the books of the old masters? He'd say that true knowledge isn't something static you just memorize from a page. Nope. It's alive, it's dynamic, and you can only find it in the hands-on process of creation and change. This single idea, it's the perfect way to get into our real subject.
So why are we talking about a mythical blacksmith? Well, because his philosophy perfectly mirrors the life and work of a really groundbreaking and, yeah, often controversial physician from the 16th century named Paracelsus. For him, the smith's forge and the physician's laboratory were pretty much one and the same. The parallel here is, well, it's just striking, isn't it? Just like the blacksmith watched the raw metal to learn its secrets, Paracelsus did the exact same thing with medicine. He was convinced that nature, not just old books, was the ultimate teacher. He saw the human body as a living, breathing, changing laboratory, not some static map. For him, tradition was just the foundation you build on. It was never, ever the final word.
And this really became his quest. This wasn't just about mixing potions based on some old recipe. It was an active search. He went digging into the natural world, into plants, minerals, even metals, to find what he called their hidden virtues. He was hunting for real-world cures by looking at real-world stuff, and let me tell you, that practice set him on a major collision course with the establishment.
And of course, that brings us right to the central conflict of our story. You know how it is. Innovation is rarely welcomed with open arms. Both our mythical Smith and the real Paracelsus face this intense, sometimes even hostile opposition from the traditionalists of their time. These were people who were deeply, deeply invested in the old ways of doing things. To really get why they were so scared, you have to remember what medicine was like back then. In the 16th century, it was all about the ancient Greek theory of the four humors. This idea that illness was just an imbalance of bodily fluids. Paracelsus, he just threw that right out. So the village scholars mocked the blacksmith for using dirty, unrefined minerals. In the exact same way, the medical establishment attacked Paracelsus for using things like metallic salts, mercury, antimony. In both cases, the old guard was convinced that only the traditional, pure methods were right, and that these new chemical tricks were just plain dangerous. But Paracelsus, he had such a powerful counterargument. He didn't see these things as inherently evil. He saw potential. And this is a cornerstone of alchemy. The idea that a poison, in just the right dose, could actually become a medicine. It was all about understanding and mastering the process of transformation. Okay, so this practical work, it actually built up into a much, much grander philosophy. For Paracelsus and for our Smith, their craft wasn't just about making things. No, it was like a window into the very nature of the universe itself.
This one image just captures their entire worldview perfectly. The Smith saw the processes in his forge as reflections of these huge, universal forces. He taught that the fire in the furnace wasn't really different from the vital spark of life. The very heat that moves the blood through our veins. This idea actually has a name, the microcosm, and Paracelsus was a huge champion of this belief. He taught that to understand the human body, the little world, you had to understand the universe, the great world or macrocosm. He truly believed humanity was a miniature reflection of the heavens and the earth. So if you could understand the chemistry of the world around you, you could unlock the divine mechanics of life itself.
So what happens when someone's ideas and their results are just so far ahead of their time? When their methods are so revolutionary that people can't really wrap their heads around them? Well, pretty often their work starts to look less like science and a lot more like magic.
Back in our parable, word of the blacksmith's incredibly effective work starts to spread. His unique methods produce these uniquely strong tools, maybe even a few folk remedies on the side. But because people didn't understand how he did it, they just filled in the gaps with fantasy, and the stories just grew and grew. Pretty soon, he wasn't just a skilled craftsman anymore. He was a sorcerer who could command the elements.
And you can probably guess where this is going. Paracelsus suffered the exact same fate. His real, tangible medical breakthroughs, curing illnesses that other doctors just couldn't touch, were so effective they became the stuff of legend. Slowly but surely, the actual science was just swallowed up by the myth of the magician.
And this just captures the tragic irony of his legacy perfectly. He was a man who wanted to heal with chemistry, but he became the legend who supposedly kept a demon trapped in his sword. At his core, he was a man of science, trying to revolutionize medicine. But in the popular imagination, the legend totally took over. And the man, he just got lost.
All right, so let's bring this all to a close. What is the lasting legacy of both our mythical smith and the real physician? Well, it all comes back to that central, alchemical idea, transformation.
The blacksmith, he proved that the poison of raw ore could be refined into the medicine of a strong blade. And Paracelsus, he did the exact same thing for the human body, turning mineral poisons into actual cures. His ultimate legacy is really a testament to this idea that transformation, whether it's metal or medicine, it requires the courage to face the fire of criticism and the unknown.
So, the lessons from the Forge are pretty clear. First, meaningful change requires bravery. It just does. Second, that line between science and wonder, it's often just a matter of perspective. And finally, we really honor a pioneer like Paracelsus best when we remember both his practical wisdom and the incredible, almost magical ambition that drove him forward.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In our own time, with innovations like AI and gene editing that can seem totally incomprehensible, maybe the story of Paracelsus is more relevant now than ever. It asks us to consider, where do we, today, draw that constantly shifting line between rigorous science and profound wonder?